Today, I want to speak about a subject that touches the core of our spiritual beliefs, the Testament of God. Whether we find in the Holy Bible, the Quran, the Torah, or other sacred texts, the Testament of God is much more than a collection of words. It is a profound covenant, a divine promise, and a guiding light for humanity. The word testament itself signifies a solemn declaration of truth, and in the context of our relationship with the divine, it represents the eternal bond between God and His creation. It serves as a testament to God's unwavering love, His mercy, and His desire to guide us towards a life of purpose, fulfillment, and righteousness. From the beginning of time, the Testament of God has been revealed through prophets, sages, and messengers who have conveyed His words to mankind. These words carry the weight of divine wisdom and moral direction. They teach us about compassion, justice, forgiveness, and the significance of faith. God's testament reminds us of His promise, a promise to never abandon us, even in our darkest moments. It teaches us that in our trials and tribulations, God is not distant. He is near, listening to our prayers and witnessing our struggles. When we read or listen to these sacred texts, we are not merely hearing stories of the past, but are engaging in a timeless dialogue between the Creator and His beloved creation. The Testament of God also calls us to responsibility. It invites us to rise above our weaknesses, to embody the virtues of patience, humility, and kindness. It challenges us to be stewards of the earth, to be our brother's keeper, and to stand against injustice in whatever form it takes. Throughout history, people have drawn strength and solace from these divine messages. In times of war and peace, prosperity and hardship, God's testament has been the source of moral courage and spiritual resilience. It is an enduring reminder that we are never alone, for His words are alive in our hearts and manifest in our actions. But more than anything else, the Testament of God is about love, an unconditional, boundless love that transcends our imperfections and failings. It is a love that reaches out to the lost, the broken, and the weary, offering hope and redemption. This love is the cornerstone of God's covenant, a promise that, no matter how far we stray, there is always a path back to Him. As we reflect on the Testament of God, let us remember that it is not confined to ink and paper. It is alive within us, written on the hearts of those who seek truth and strive to live righteously. It calls us to action, to be lights in a world often overshadowed by darkness, to be the hands and feet of God's compassion, and to embody His grace in every interaction. The Testament of God is more than just a declaration. It is a living promise, a guiding principle, and a manifestation of His eternal love. Let us hold it dear, cherish it, and live it. For in doing so, we honor the Creator and fulfill our divine purpose. Throughout history, the relationship between God and humanity has been expressed through sacred texts and divine revelations, collectively known as God's Testament. This testament is not only a record of God's promises and covenants, but also a profound commentary on human actions, offering a moral framework that shapes our understanding of right and wrong. By examining how God's testament relates to human acts, we can better appreciate its role as a guiding force that elevates our conduct, fosters a deeper sense of purpose, and connects us with the divine. At the heart of every divine testament is the establishment of moral principles that serve as a compass for human behavior. Whether found in the Ten Commandments, the teachings of Jesus, the guidance of the Quran, or the wisdom of other sacred scriptures, these principles provide clear guidance on what constitutes virtuous and sinful actions. They offer more than a list of prohibitions and mandates. They are a blueprint for living in accordance with divine will. They address issues of justice, mercy, compassion, honesty, and self-control, which transcend time and culture, reminding us that certain values are universal and essential to the flourishing of human life. For instance, when the Bible states, "Thou shalt not steal," it is not merely forbidding theft, but also promoting respect for others' property and the integrity of one's own character. Similarly, when the Quran encourages believers to enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong, it is urging a proactive approach to moral responsibility, compelling individuals to advocate for justice and stand against oppression. Human actions in this context are seen as reflections of divine will or their opposites. The choices people make, whether to love or to hate, to build or to destroy, are seen as responses to God's testament. When individuals act in accordance with divine principles, their deeds serve as a testament to their faith and commitment to a higher moral order. They become conduits through which God's love, mercy, and justice are manifested in the world. On the other hand, when people commit acts of harm, selfishness, or injustice, they are turning away from this divine testament, choosing instead a path that leads to discord and suffering. These negative actions do not just harm others. They represent a breach in the covenant between God and humanity. They indicate a failure to embody the virtues and principles that God's testament calls upon us to uphold. Central to understanding the relationship between God's testament and human acts is the concept of free will. God, in His wisdom, has endowed human beings with the freedom to choose their paths. This freedom is what makes our actions meaningful and significant. God's testament lays out a clear path, but it does not force adherence. Instead, it invites people to choose goodness willingly, to act out of love, devotion, and an inner commitment to what is right. The existence of free will means that human actions carry profound moral weight. They are not predetermined, but are instead the result of conscious decisions that reflect an individual's values and beliefs. By choosing to act in accordance with God's testament, people affirm their commitment to divine principles and participate in the unfolding of God's plan for humanity. Beyond individual behavior, God's testament has shaped the moral and ethical foundations of societies around the world. Laws, social norms, and cultural values have often been influenced by divine teachings. The idea that all people possess inherent dignity and worth, for example, has its roots in the belief that human beings are created in the image of God. Concepts such as justice, equality, and human rights are also deeply intertwined with the moral directives found in sacred texts. Moreover, God's testament has inspired countless acts of charity, sacrifice, and service throughout history. From the establishment of hospitals and educational institutions to movements for social justice and civil rights, the influence of divine teachings on human acts is evident. The moral imperatives to care for the poor, to seek peace, and to uphold justice have motivated people to work towards a world that better reflects the values espoused in God's testament. In essence, God's testament to human acts serves as both a guide and a challenge. It is a guide in that it illuminates the path to righteousness, offering clarity in times of moral confusion and reminding us of our highest calling. It is a challenge in that it demands more than passive belief. It calls for active engagement, for our deeds to mirror the divine while expressed in sacred texts. To live in alignment with God's testament is to acknowledge the profound responsibility that comes with free will. It is to strive towards actions that honor God's covenant, to uplift others, and to contribute to a more just and compassionate world. Human acts, in response to God's testament, become expressions of faith and love, bridging the gap between the temporal and the eternal. Ultimately, God's testament invites humanity to not merely believe, but to act, ensuring that our lives are living testaments to His glory, mercy, and truth. Throughout human history, individuals have sought guidance from the divine to navigate the complexities of life. The idea of aligning our actions with divine will serve as a central theme across many religions and spiritual traditions, offering a path toward living a life of deeper purpose and meaning. This call challenges us to transcend our personal desires and ambitions and instead act in ways that reflect higher principles of love, justice, and compassion. By aligning our actions with divine will, we can create a more harmonious world, connect more authentically with others, and achieve a sense of inner peace and fulfillment. The concept of divine will can be understood as the intentions and purposes that God, or a higher power, has for humanity. It encompasses the moral and spiritual laws that guide our lives, as well as the unique calling that each individual has in the broader cosmic order. Divine will is often communicated through sacred texts, spiritual teachings, and personal experiences that reveal a sense of purpose or direction. Aligning our actions with divine will means more than just obeying religious rules or commandments. It involves tuning into a deeper sense of guidance that goes beyond external directives. It requires introspection, discernment, and a willingness to submit to a higher purpose, even when it conflicts with personal desires or societal pressures. This alignment is an ongoing, dynamic process that shapes our character and influences every aspect of our lives. Choosing to align our actions with divine will is not always easy. In a world that often prioritizes material success, personal gain, and instant gratification, living according to spiritual principles can seem countercultural or even impractical. The challenges include overcoming ego, resisting temptations, and making sacrifices that may go against our immediate self-interest. Moreover, the process of discerning divine will is itself complex. It involves distinguishing between the voice of the divine and other influences, such as fear, pride, or societal expectations. It requires patience, humility, and the willingness to listen deeply and honestly to what is being called forth from within. These challenges test our resolve and commitment, but they also provide opportunities for spiritual growth and maturity. To align our actions with divine will, we must first cultivate an attitude of openness and receptivity. This involves setting aside time for practices such as prayer, meditation, and contemplation, which help us to quiet the mind and open the heart. Through these practices, we become more attuned to the subtle promptings of the divine and more aware of the ways in which our actions either support or hinder our spiritual alignment. Next, we must strive to embody virtues that are consistent with divine will, such as love, compassion, humility, and integrity. These virtues serve as markers that indicate when we are living in alignment with a higher purpose. For example, when faced with a difficult decision, we might ask ourselves, does this choice reflect love and compassion? Does it promote truth and justice? By using these questions as a moral compass, we can navigate complex situations with greater clarity and alignment. It is also important to engage in self-reflection and seek guidance from spiritual mentors or communities who share similar values. Being part of a spiritual community can provide support and accountability as we strive to live in accordance with divine will. Spiritual mentors can offer wisdom and insights that help us see beyond our limited perspectives and encourage us to stay committed to our spiritual path. When individuals choose to align their actions with divine will, the impact extends far beyond their personal lives. On an individual level, this alignment fosters a sense of inner peace and fulfillment, as one feels connected to a higher purpose and experiences a deeper sense of meaning. It leads to a harmonious inner state where thoughts, feelings, and actions are in sync with the divine. On a collective level, when more people choose to live in alignment with divine will, society as a whole benefits. Actions motivated by love, justice, and compassion create a ripple effect that promotes social harmony, reduces conflict, and fosters a culture of care and respect. In this way, aligning our actions with divine will can contribute to addressing broader issues such as poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation. For example, when individuals act out of a sense of stewardship for the earth, they contribute to environmental conservation and sustainable living practices. When people prioritize the well-being of others over personal gain, they help create communities that are more supportive, inclusive, and just. These acts of alignment demonstrate the transformative power of living according to divine will. Answering the call to align our actions with divine will is not a one-time decision, but a lifelong journey. It involves continually reevaluating our motivations, refining our intentions, and adjusting our behaviors as we grow in spiritual awareness. This journey is not about perfection, but about sincere effort and openness to divine guidance. By striving to live in alignment with divine will, we become co-creators with the divine, participating in the unfolding of a greater vision for our lives and the world. We learn to let go of fear, trust in a higher purpose, and act with courage and conviction. This alignment ultimately brings us closer to our true selves and allows us to fulfill the unique role we are meant to play in the larger tapestry of creation. The call to align our actions with divine will is an invitation to live a life that transcends the mundane and connects us with a higher purpose. It challenges us to look beyond personal gain and short-term satisfaction, and instead strive for actions that reflect love, justice, and compassion. Though the journey is filled with challenges and uncertainties, it is also rich with opportunities for growth and transformation. As we answer this call, we not only enrich our own lives, but also contribute to the creation of a world that more fully reflects the divine vision of harmony, peace, and goodness. The relationship between God and humanity has been marked by a deep, enduring dialogue that spans millennia. This dialogue is encapsulated in God's testament to humanity, a series of covenants, revelations, and teachings delivered through sacred texts and prophets. These divine messages are more than just words. They are expressions of God's love, wisdom, and desire for the well-being of His creation. God's testament offers humanity a path to moral clarity, spiritual fulfillment, and a sense of purpose. It serves as both a guiding light in times of darkness and a call to higher ideals, challenging us to live in alignment with divine will. The word testament itself suggests a solemn declaration or agreement. In a spiritual context, God's testament is a record of His promises, guidance, and expectations for humanity. It is a covenant that communicates God's unwavering commitment to humanity's growth and redemption. This testament is presented in various forms, including the commandments given to Moses, the teachings of Jesus Christ, the revelations of the Quran, and other sacred scriptures that inspire millions across the world. God's testament is both universal and personal. It is universal in the sense that its teachings and principles apply to all of humanity, transcending cultural, geographical, and temporal boundaries. Yet, it is also deeply personal, addressing each individual's heart and soul, inviting every person to enter into a relationship with the divine. It speaks to the human condition, offering hope and redemption in the face of suffering and providing moral guidance in the midst of confusion and moral ambiguity. God's testament to humanity is woven around several central themes that define its message and purpose. One of the most profound themes is that of love. God's love for humanity is a recurring message found in all religious traditions. This love is unconditional and boundless, encompassing all people regardless of their actions or status. God's testament calls upon humanity to reflect this divine love in their own actions by showing compassion, kindness, and mercy to others. Another key theme is that of justice and righteousness. God's testament outlines principles of justice that guide human relationships and societal structures. The call to uphold justice is not merely a suggestion, but a divine imperative that demands fairness, equality, and respect for the dignity of every person. Through His testament, God emphasizes that true righteousness is measured not just by ritual observance, but by how we treat the marginalized, defend the oppressed, and act with integrity in all matters. The theme of forgiveness and redemption is also central to God's testament. It recognizes human fallibility and offers a path back to righteousness through repentance, forgiveness, and the transformation of character. This theme is a reminder that no one is beyond the reach of God's grace, and that every person has the potential for spiritual renewal and growth. Lastly, guidance and purpose are prominent themes in God's testament. It provides clear instructions on how to live a life that is aligned with divine will. These instructions include moral directives, spiritual practices, and the cultivation of virtues such as humility, patience, and gratitude. God's testament urges humanity to seek a higher purpose beyond material pursuits, directing individuals towards lives of service, devotion, and the pursuit of truth. One of the ways God's testament is communicated is through prophets and sacred texts. Prophets are chosen messengers who serve as intermediaries between God and humanity. They convey God's words, demonstrate divine principles through their actions, and guide people back to the path of righteousness. Figures like Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, and others are revered, not only for their teachings, but also for their embodiment of divine will in their lives. Sacred texts such as the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and the Bhagavad Gita are written records of God's testament. These texts serve as repositories of divine wisdom, offering guidance on how to navigate the moral and spiritual challenges of life. They contain narratives, laws, parables, and teachings that reflect the diverse ways God's testament has been revealed to humanity over time. These texts are not static documents. They are living sources of inspiration that continue to speak to the hearts and minds of believers, providing comfort, direction, and insight. God's testament is not a one-sided declaration. It invites a response from humanity. This response is manifested in the way individuals choose to live their lives. People are called to be stewards of the earth, caretakers of each other, and bearers of God's principles in their communities. The responsibility is twofold: to uphold personal integrity and to contribute to the greater good of society. On a personal level, this means striving to live in accordance with divine teachings, showing kindness, seeking justice, and maintaining faith even in difficult circumstances. On a collective level, it means working towards creating a world that reflects the values of love, justice, and peace as set forth in God's testament. This responsibility is not limited to any single religious group or tradition, but is a universal call that extends to all people, regardless of their background. God's testament has profoundly shaped human history and culture. It has been a source of moral and legal frameworks, inspired movements for social justice, and served as the foundation for countless works of art, literature, and philosophy. The Testament's influence can be seen in the establishment of charitable institutions, the development of ethical codes, and the promotion of human rights. Furthermore, God's testament has inspired acts of extraordinary courage and sacrifice. Leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and Mother Teresa drew upon divine teachings to advocate for justice, peace, and compassion. Their lives exemplify how the principles of God's testament can be applied to bring about transformative change in the world. God's testament to humanity is a profound and timeless expression of divine love, wisdom, and purpose. It offers guidance for living a life that is not only morally upright, but also deeply meaningful and spiritually enriching. By embracing God's testament, we are invited to align our actions with a higher will, to reflect divine virtues in our relationships, and to contribute to the creation of a world that honors the sacredness of all life. This testament calls us to rise above our limitations, to seek truth and justice, and to live as bearers of light in a world that often struggles with darkness. It is an enduring reminder that no matter our circumstances, we are never alone. For God's words are not just inscribed in sacred texts, but also written upon our hearts. As we respond to this divine call, we become active participants in the unfolding of God's vision for humanity, realizing our true potential as children of the divine.